And everybody has a gun.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I mean, my husband owns a gun, but he doesn't carry it all the time. But I mean, it's one of there are certain areas that you want to be sure that you have that gun.
Meet Palle Bo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world. At the age of 50, he made a bold decision. He sold everything, his house, his car, his furniture, and set out with a quest to visit every single country in the world, documenting everything along the way. This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
I'm back on the road after 3 amazing days in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis has a lot to offer, and some of the highlights that I picked out was, of course, Graceland, but also Sun Studio, and the Rock and Soul Museum tells the story of the music that has come out of Memphis, and that is just so much more than just Elvis Presley. Also, I went to the National Civil Rights Museum. I would say that's a must-see as well if you're in Memphis. And then, of course, Beale Street, a crazy party street with a lot of live music. Today, I'm going to be driving through 2 American states, Mississippi. I've been there before, but this time it's in the northern part of Mississippi, and Alabama. But before I really get started, let me mention that this episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps me find the best prices on hotels around the world, and hostels and motels. In fact, I've found the motel that I'm staying at tonight on Hotels25.com. I was planning to stay with a local couchsurfing host in Alabama, but yesterday night he sent a message to me that he was expecting to get this house. It's a house that he's moving into. He was expecting to get this house before I came, but something happened and he couldn't host me anyway. He did offer me to stay at his office, but I decided to decline that. And I tried to find another couchsurfing host, but I didn't manage to do that. So I went on Hotels25.com and booked a very cheap room on a Motel 6 in Tuscaloosa. Before I left Memphis, my couchsurfing host Justine told me that I should go to Clarksdale. It's a small village about 70 miles south of Memphis, and it's got a rock and blues museum. It's a private collection that's been collected over 40 plus years, and I have made an appointment to speak to the lady who's taking care of the museum. Her name is Mark, and I am almost there. I can see that Clarksdale is, well, it almost looks like a ghost town. The houses are worn down, not many people in the streets. This is a small place, and oh, here it is. I was recommended to visit the Rock and Blues Museum in Clarksdale, Mississippi. With a population of just more than 17,000, Clarksdale is a small city in the Mississippi Delta, but it's been described as the ground zero for blues music. It all started here. There's also a blues club called the Ground Zero Blues Club. It's co-owned by Mississippi Delta resident Morgan Freeman. Yes, the voice of God.
All right, this is our Clarksdale room. We are all about our local music here. We feel that that's what makes Clarksdale what it is. Actually, no, we feel like we're the home of the blues. It all started with Africans, and they came over from Africa and made our music. And you'll kind of see that as you go along back here, because it starts with blues and then works into rock and roll. Starts with blues in 1920, works into rock and roll about 1950. In the very back, there's a DVD that was done about my boss. Someone from Holland came over and did it. And it's about him, but it gives you a flair of what Clarksdale's about. It shows a lot of musicians. They talk about what it's like here and that type of thing. So right here, is all the local people that play around here. Are you guys here tonight by any chance, or just for the day?
Just for the day.
Just for the day. Okay. Well, this is our real live juke joint. Juke joints have been around a long time. They're going away. This is one of the last ones in Mississippi. At one time, it was the only place that blacks could play. They used to call it juking up in here. And now everybody loves to go there. It's just a very old place. If you looked at it from the outside, sometimes you can't tell what it is, but there's a big blues marker out in front of this one. And of course, you've got to have a cooker out in front of it, you know. But anyway, when you walk in, there's plastic on the ceiling. It's very tiny, but it's always fun. And they've always got a lot of people in there. They are having music there tonight, by the way. I'm just going to point out a few that I feel are no.
After the tour of the museum, I asked Mark Taylor what kind of place Clarksdale is.
That's an interesting question. It's a small town that has a lot of potential. It is mainly supported by the blues industry and tourism, and the people here in the downtown area are from somewhere else, most of them. And we're trying to keep the blues alive and keep Clarksdale cool.
Yeah, because we're in the heartland of the Delta.
Yes, it is the heartland of the Delta. Yes.
So a lot of the music that influenced the music that we're listening to today basically came out of here.
Yes, it did. Just like that map that we have that shows all of the different musicians that were born in the Delta.
Well, it's amazing. Did they put something in the water?
I don't know. It's pretty mystic to me. And I like driving down 61 from Memphis to here. It's a straight road. It's flat. And you can just imagine the old blues guys trying to hitchhike and stuff, just going from town to town to get to a place to play.
And this is the Rock and Blues Museum, and it's a private collection.
It's a private collection of one person over 45 years. His name is Theo Dashba. He is from Holland, however, he likes me to say this. He is an American citizen now, and him and his wife make their home in Memphis.
Yeah. And he collected this and shows it off here in Clarksdale.
Yes, he did collect it. He started collecting a long time ago when he was in Holland, and he was a corporate attorney. He would come to the United States, and he was really into the music. He started coming down to Memphis, and I think that's when he really started collecting things. He ended up buying a house in Memphis in 1973, and some people that he got to know were neighbors, and they started renting it out for him when he was gone. So he's had that house the whole time. Then he met his wife in New York. It was kind of a blind date type thing, which they both didn't want to go on, but they did. And they met each other, and she fell in love with him, and vice versa. They ended up going back to Holland. So they took everything that he had so far back to Holland, and she urged him to open a museum because she didn't want it in her house. So they had a museum in Holland, and then when they came back, they brought everything back with them, including this countertop, which is very, very heavy. But even the juke, the little players back here, everything.
Of course, there's a lot of it's a record collection, vinyl records, and then some guitars and a lot of posters. I saw a Danish poster, Elvis Presley. Playboy i bølgegang. I have no idea what the original title is, but that's kind of amusing.
Well, there's a lot of memorabilia that, I mean, anytime you have music, and there's a lot of things that go along with that, and I think that's what he captured on.
Mark, thank you so much. You are listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave a review in iTunes. If you're listening on an iPhone, you can actually do it right there within your podcast app. And now, back to the show. Just before I left the Rock and Blues Museum, Mark showed me a picture of an old African-American guy, and he's sort of a blues legend. She told me that he runs a small blues shack in his backyard called Gibbs Place, and that's in Bessemer, very close to Birmingham, and that's where I'm heading. So she told me that I should try to stop by and see if he was there. There's not any music playing, it's only on Saturdays, but maybe he would be there, so he would be an interesting character to talk to. It's funny, if Justine didn't tell me about the Rock and Blues Museum in Clarksdale, I would never have gone to Clarksdale, and if Mark in the Rock and Blues Museum didn't tell me about Gibb, I would never have known about Gibb and Gibbs Place. So it's interesting if you keep your eyes and ears open and open to suggestions, that you act on those suggestions, and maybe you'll get to see some things that you wouldn't see otherwise. So that is the travel tip of the day. Keep your eyes and ears open and be open to suggestions. In fact, in Clarksdale, the very famous voice of God, Morgan Freeman, is the co-owner of a blues club. In fact, he lives right here in this tiny village, and he is the co-founder and the co-owner of a blues club. I heard him on a video saying that he likes grass and trees more than asphalt, and that's why he doesn't have a big mansion in LA or Beverly Hills, and instead lives right here in this sleepy town of Mississippi. And being the good citizen that he is, he co-founded this blues club in order to bring tourists here. And I'm sure it helps a lot that his name is a part of this whole place. I'm sure that will bring some more tourists here. And in fact, he's quite often in the club, I hear, and sometimes he's even on stage trying to sing. I did see a YouTube video of Morgan Freeman singing in this club, and when he's singing, it's not the voice of God. In fact, he's not a very, very good singer, but it is Morgan Freeman, and he can do no wrong. I really like that guy. I didn't bump into him before I left. Instead, I headed east towards Alabama. And doing so, I passed a town called Oxford. The story is that they renamed their town to Oxford because they so wanted to have the University of Mississippi here in Oxford. And apparently it worked. The University of Mississippi is now in Oxford, right here in Mississippi. Yesterday I met a Chinese guy who's a professor at this university, and when he told me that he was teaching physics in the university in Oxford, I said to him, "Oh, that's fancy. That's quite an achievement to be a university professor in Oxford." And he laughed and said, "Well, it's not that Oxford, and it's not that big a university, but it is right here in Mississippi." And a few miles after that, I saw a sign saying "Next stop, Denmark." So immediately I took the exit and decided to go to Denmark. It's been a while since I've been in Denmark, so I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. But in fact, there was nothing more than a few houses there and a Baptist church, the Baptist Church of Denmark. There wasn't even any shops. There were just a few houses. But I did go to Denmark for the first time in a very long time. I crossed the border into Alabama, and normally when I cross a state border, there's like a sign saying, "Welcome to Mississippi," or Missouri, or whatever. Right here, there was a sign saying, "Sweet Home Alabama." Do you remember Justine saying, "Oh, do not go to Alabama. It's just a bunch of unintelligent rednecks and flaming racists, and you will not like it. Well, I decided to go anyway. And one of the reasons was, well, apart from the song, that I wanted to see this part of the U.S. as well. And also because I've been listening to a podcast called S-Town. It's produced by Brian Reed and the people who brought us Serial and This American Life. And it's really a great piece of radio work. If you haven't listened to it, make sure that you do. It's called S-Town. And it takes place in this small town called Woodstock, Alabama. And I've been driving on the small roads of Woodstock. The main character is a guy named John B. McLemore. And apart from sounding like a redneck, talking like a redneck, acting like a redneck, you can tell that he's a sensitive guy and super, super intelligent. And the story just unfolds, and it's amazing. One of the things that John B. McLemore did was build a maze in his backyard, a big maze that you can actually see on Google Maps. He doesn't live there anymore, and I'm not gonna spoil why he doesn't live there anymore if you haven't listened to it. But please do. But I thought I would drive by and see if it was possible to go in there and see the maze that I heard so much about in the podcast. But as I passed just before, there were signs saying no trespassing. And since this is a part of the U.S. where everybody has a gun, I didn't want to be trespassing, so I just looked at it from the road, and on the other side of the road was a small trailer park where one of the other main characters live, and I just kept driving through this area and through this small town of Woodstock, Alabama. I would expect that it was more only trailer parks, but driving up this road that I'm on right now, there are in fact nice, big, beautiful houses on one side and trailers on the other side. The big houses, they have beautiful, well-maintained lawns, and it's not what I expected. It's in a forest just outside of Woodstock, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful here.
Close to S-Town, Woodstock, Alabama, in a small shop, I met a woman named Heather. I asked her to tell me something about this area.
The area you're in now is not a bad area. I mean, right outside of Birmingham, right outside of Tuscaloosa, it's just a small little area. We've been here our entire lives, I guess, is why we're still here. But I mean, you kind of grow up here. Our family's here. It's a very family-oriented area. Our grandparents, until they passed away in the past year, they lived less than 5 minutes from us. Our aunts, our uncles, our parents are still here. Obviously, my brother, our other sister is still here. So
Nobody moves out.
some people move out. I mean, I have a daughter that has moved out. Yeah. So, but she's married to a military guy, and so they've moved to Key West, Florida. But you know, there are some people that move out. But if you've got family roots here, and we're very close knit family, you just kind of stay around. You take care of each other. So,
a beautiful nature.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So, and you've got the best of both worlds because we've got the beaches just a couple hours away. You've got lakes and rivers nearby if you like to play on the water. We've got some, you know, some mountain areas, lots of hiking. So, it's not bad.
No.
This is rural Alabama, and probably the Trump country that Justine was talking about.
When we're in Alabama, is this Trump country?
Depends on who you talk to, but yes, we are. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody has a gun.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Nobody has one in Denmark unless you're a hunter.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't own a gun. I mean, my husband owns a gun, but he doesn't carry it all the time. But I mean, it's one of the, it's a freedom here. So,
exactly.
And like I told you, there are certain areas that you want to be sure that you have that gun so I don't want anybody taking that right away from me.
No.
No.
Alabama is a big state, and we're in the northern part. Is it very different than the southern part?
You're central, actually.
Am I?
You are straight smack dab centrally located right now. So, Huntsville is northern. You would have Mobile is the southern, and Birmingham, Tuscaloosa area is central Alabama. So, but I would assume it's all. I mean, we've been northern. We just got back from the southern. We've got a place at the beach down there that we just got back from this weekend, and it's all about the same. Very laid back, very easygoing.
But it is sweet home Alabama.
It is. I don't plan on leaving, so no, I like it here.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels around the world. Hotels25.com. It's best price guaranteed.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes or the podcast app on your smartphone. You can see pictures, watch videos, and read much more on theradiovagabond.com. Pale can be reached for interviews and public speaking gigs on mail at theradiovagabond.com.
And then I was heading to Gibbs Place in Bessemer, Alabama.
And I had somebody like James Brown to come on here.
James Brown played here.
Yeah, all of them been here, James Brown, Buddy Guy. You see Everett Spencer, all them people that been right here.
They've been right here.
Yeah, man.
You can join me in the next episode of the Radio Vagabond podcast. My name is Palabo. See ya.